Hi and welcome to this section. In this section, in our previous section, we learned about some of the basic commands in Docker and also learned how to run a Docker image and containerize it. Now, in that case, we were downloading our image from Docker Hub repositories, correct? Uh, from here, which was Nginx image, and just for reference, I just pulled this image and then we were running a container out of this image, correct? In this case, now we would be learning how we can create our own Docker file using own image using the Docker file, correct? So let me open one .NET application just in case to showcase you like how we can host our application. So this is a .NET application, ASP.NET application which I have created locally. Let me run it locally first, right? So it is loading. Yeah. So if you see here, this is my application content and it includes all the necessary file for our ASP.NET application. And now we'll go ahead and build this application and run it, host it locally, right? So we do have an option directly in Visual Studio to build the .NET applications. I just click on that. So what this did is it went ahead and built the application. If you see, this is a command. Let me build it again. If you see here, it went ahead and built all the application packages and then hosted it here locally. So if you currently see also, it is inside our local host. Port number is 44385 by default, right? So this is how it was built locally and hosted locally here just for testing purposes. Any developer who builds their application, right, they would be testing it here. Now, as a DevOps engineer, this application needs to be created in terms of image and for shipping purposes and required to host or run a container out of image. Yeah, that is what we learned in our Docker introductory session, right? So to create a Docker image for this application, we have to write a Docker file. For that, what I'll do is, this is my application content. I'll copy all these things into my server using WinS, WinSCP. So I have already opened it. I have already copied this new directory inside my home, inside demo. This is my username, and inside that I have already created one directory named as new, and inside that I have already copied all of my content inside the Linux server. So I'll just open that and show you. So I'm currently inside my Linux machine. Here I'll say I'll already inside my home new directory here. If you see my relative path here, this is my directory where I'm using. Let me print my directory using pwd command. This is my directory where I'm inside. I'll say ls. So these are all my content files for my ASP.NET application which I just showed you. These are all the same content file if you remember. If you also can compare this is the same content file inside the Linux server, that Linux server. Now here I'll create one Docker file using the command vi dockerfile. I'm already inside my Docker file, which is this is a new file which it got created. I'm already inside it. I'll simply insert some content. I've already written some Docker file also to build an image for ASP.NET application. I'll simply copy this and paste it here. I'll explain what is happening here. For now, yeah, let me go ahead and explain it right away. Here we are using the base image. This is again a OS, you can say it as. This is a base image which has ASP.NET 6.0 already installed on this. This image also we can find it directly from Docker Hub. So this is also a base image, and I'm aliasing, giving a alias name as base so that I can use the same image by its alias name here. If you see below, mm, yeah, I haven't used any this image again, but let it be. Okay, I'm setting up a working directory inside this image, which is app. This is one folder, and I'm inside, like I'm setting up the working directory inside this image, and I'm exposing this to port 80. Okay, now I'm using a SDK version of 3.1, which is as a build now. Now I want to build the application. Now what I'll do is I'll copy all the content of the current directory inside this new working directory. So ultimately I'm setting up a working directory as source src. Inside that again it would be a new folder, new, and it would copy all the content of my current directory in my base image, like in my Docker hosted the base directory into this new directory, right? And then it would run a command for restoring a .NET NuGet packages. So it would restore the .NET NuGet packages in this command .NET restore. And inside whatever the content we have copied, right, it would go ahead and search for this application, this name currently. So if I've shown you already, this is the CS proj file, web application 1.csproj. It would again search for the same CS proj file, and then it restores the NuGet packages. Then again, it would copy everything inside, everything in the source directory into this source/new directory here in this stage. Again, again now it would set our directory inside this new whatever the new file it was created and copied, that is the src/new, and then it runs the command .NET publish. So this is a command used to publish our .NET build. So whatever the output it got generated, right, it would be published inside a folder known as /app/public. Inside this folder, all the published content would be present. Now I'm using the same image. This would be my final image. Like I could have used the like build as final only, but I have again used this the whole image name here. And again, I'm setting a working directory inside this image. So this would be a multi-stage Docker file. Just in case to reduce the size of our application, we are following this multi-stage Docker file. So that the file of the image of the image of our application would be lower in size, right? So here, whatever the publish file it has been published, everything it would be copied from build here. This is the build file, like from build, and this is the folder which it got published in our build image. So if you see, this is the alias I have given it as build, and it would copy everything and it would paste inside the current directory of this image, which is /application, right? And then this is a final command to run our application or containerize our application in the form of container, which would be .NET, and whatever the main file would be web application or DDL inside the publish file. So there would be one file, web application or DDL, inside the publish file, which it just got copied from our build image to the final image, and this would be our entry point for launching our application. So this was all about the Docker file. So let me save this. Okay, I just press something. Sorry, I just lost the connectivity to this session for my remote connectivity. So let me create a Docker file again using vi command, vi dockerfile. So this would be name of my Docker. This is important. The name of the Docker file should be dockerfile only, and it should be inside the same directory where our project file is. Okay. So I'm creating it the same way. So the file got created. Just a moment. I just lost something again. I'll just reconnect it. So this was my session. Log into the Let me switch user. Sudo su inside demo cd. This is my current directory. Yeah. So here I'll create a Docker file again. Vi docker file. Let me recover this file. Continue. Yeah. So this was my file, Docker file, which I just explained you. Now let me save this. Okay. To save, just press escape and colon WQ, enter. So this would be saved. Now if you see, if I do ls again, right, it would show a Docker file here. There it is. Here, this is a Docker file, we just created it. Now to build an image using Dockerfile, the Docker file which I just wrote, so we can now run a command docker build -t and just specify the image name, whatever you want to give. You say my first application, first app, and this is a path of the docker path where the Docker file is present. So since the Docker file is present in the current directory where I'm executing this command, I'll simply say dot and enter. This should start building our application in terms of the stages. So it's currently building my image. Let's wait for this process to run. So what are the Docker file we just wrote? That is a multi-stage Docker file. Just remember it. Now it is done. Now if I say Docker images, this is an image we just created. So I was just doing some POCs behind. So I created 26 minutes ago and then again creating it, but it is taking us a 20, like created was 26 minutes ago. This is my first application, right? And the size of our image is 292 MB. Now, the same thing. Now we want to run our application. To run our application, you do know the command. The command is out of image. To run the container out of image, the command is docker run. I'll some alter the command, like add some of the parameters inside this command, which is docker run hyphen name. This would be my container name. I will again say it as my application one. This would be my container name, and then I'll do a port mapping with -p. This is my base port 80, and this would be my this would be Docker host port, and this would be my container port. What this says is whatever the traffic coming to port 80 of our host Docker host OS, that should be redirected to the port 80 of the container. That is what it says. That's it. And now I'll say it as the image name we have to give it, right? This would be my image name. And with detached mode I want to run, I'll simply say -d. Enter. The application is running. To check the status of the running container as well as the exited containers, we have a command docker ps-a, right? So if you see this is a Docker image which we have just run, and this is my container name. This is the container ID which is running, and this is a port mapping, and it is up and running from 11 seconds. It was created 13 seconds ago, and if I say docker ps-a again, it is up and running for 32 seconds. That is what it says. Now to check our application whether it is running or not in a container, so I'll go back to the browser again. So my public IP for my remote connectivity for this Linux machine is 20 dot, it has just come up 20.127.10.154, and I'll just open like access this with port 80. By default it would be 80 only, but I'm just, in case to showcase you, I'm just entering. So this is now publicly hosted. Correct. this is the same application we just saw when running it locally, right? Now it is being contain. The difference is now it is being containerized. Similar to this, again, we can host the same kind of application in a different port in the same server. That is what the Docker helps in. So it would be isolated within the container itself. All the dependencies, all the library files, whatever it is dependent on, everything would be isolated within the container itself. That is what the multistage Docker file also we just saw it. So this Docker files, so this uses this base image for building this application, and then for publishing it is using the same OS, and then this is to .NET like whatever the .NET file image has built, this would be our main entry point for launching our application as a container application. That is what the Docker. Hope you got an understanding how to build an application, like how to build an image and containerize it in for a .NET projects. So similarly, for other projects, we would be writing a .NET like Docker file only. Let's suppose it is a Java application. So the base image, whatever we used here, is to be dependent for that particular application. For example, it is Java. It should be has the dependent library and SDK files for Java itself. So currently we are using for .NET, right? Similarly, it would differ for different kind of application based on the requirement, whether it is Java, .NET, Angular projects, Node, etc. So hope you got an understanding here. If you have liked this video, give it thumbs up and do subscribe for more updates. Thank you.